Oklahoma State at Oregon. Both of these teams are 1-0. This game will take place at Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon, 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern time, and that is going to be on CBS. Now, the weather for this game, upper 70s, mostly cloudy, light breeze, ideal offensive and football weather for the fans. This is a line that opened up with Oregon favored by 27.5 points, and now it's all the way up to 28.5 points with the over-under at 58.5. And before we get started, I want to thank you for coming and being one of us. Make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend about the show. I'm George Wrighster, former NFL player, college football player, and college football analyst for CW and a whole bunch of other places, and here on YouTube as well. Oklahoma State, they won, but they had a very rough week. First of all, their starting quarterback, Tosh Lupoi, he was a former top 12 quarterback in recruiting the country before he transferred from TCU. The kid broke his foot in the first quarter, had to have surgery. And then you had Wendell Gregory, who had 3 sacks in the win over UT Martin. Kid got arrested on a larceny charge for allegedly taking some merchandise out of Walmart. So if that ain't a bad week, you lose your starting quarterback and one of your best players as well. No bueno. Now, on the Oregon side, they come off the heels of playing against Montana State, where it was essentially a flawless game. Only 3 penalties, didn't allow a bunch of explosive plays, held them to 13 points, including a late fourth quarter touchdown. It was a wipeout and a domination, which is what you want to see out of one of the top 10 teams in the country when they play an FCS team. We got to start where we always start. Head coach versus head coach. We got Dan Lanning versus Mr. Mike Gundy. Now, Dan Lanning, he has an elite home edge in this game because the Ducks are 19-1 at Autzen Stadium under Dan Lanning and a perfect 7-0 in the home slate in 2024. Now, Mike Gundy, on the other hand, longtime veteran coach, 170 college football wins. Last year was an awful year. There was a year where people thought that he could be on the outs. He ended up taking a pay cut, donating money to the NIL and everything else, but he has overhauled both coordinators this offseason. And truthfully, the only reason Mike Gundy is even run into trouble in Oklahoma State, he made one fatal error. He said out of his own mouth, he thought that NIL and the transfer portal were not here to stay, so he did not embrace them. That is how Oklahoma State got into this issue that they were in last year where they were absolutely awful. And now he's trying to rebuild and claw his way out, but the hole might be too deep right now. Now, here's the truth of the matter in this game. You see the line. This is highly unlikely to be an upset. However, Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State, he might not even need to beat Oregon, but this team needs to show some fight because the Big 12 could be up for grabs, so why not be able to grab it? But it'll be hard to get these players to believe that they even have a chance at the Big 12 title if they get blasted by 5 touchdowns in a road non-conference game. So how are you supposed to compete in your conference at that level? And now we got quarterback versus quarterback. You got Dante Moore over at Oregon versus Oklahoma State's current starter, Mr. Zane Flores. Dante Moore got named the starter for Oregon this year after transferring over from UCLA. The kid is sharp and he has a hell of an arm. I mean, the arm talent is undeniable. And in their season opener, 18 for 23 for 213 and 3 touchdowns. It was, as they say on Inside the NBA, it was steffortless. And this is going to be his first Power 4 test of 2025, but Autzen is a home stadium, so he's going to have the advantage of that and have a roster that is significantly better. And the whole point of this for Dante Moore is to build his confidence back up, because when he came out of high school as a 5-star quarterback, you couldn't. This was the reason why he decommitted from Oregon, was to start at UCLA. Ate a big piece of humble pie, sat behind Dylan Gabriel last year, and now he's ready to go. And over at Oklahoma State, you got Zane Flores. Now, the kid was efficient, but he was very conservative in week 1 because he was not the starting quarterback. He was 13 for 20, 136 yards as Oklahoma State eased in a new scheme with a new offensive coordinator, and they played against UT Martin. But the problem was they just didn't put up a ton of points. And the noise level for him is going to jump dramatically in a hostile environment in Autzen Stadium. But Flores, he didn't look bad in Hedgney's replacement. He did not. He actually looked okay. And the Cowboys are also likely to get their running back, Mr. Rodney Fields, back against Oregon, which should help a running game that only averaged 2.7 yards per carry against an FCS opponent. Now, the way Oregon's defense dominated Montana State included Montana State, who is a heavy running team last year, where they had multiple 1,000-yard backs. They only had 46 yards on 27 carries. So if Oklahoma State could not run the ball versus UT Martin, how do you think that that's going to go against the Ducks? We got to talk about their offense, the Oklahoma State offense versus Oregon's defense. Now, the key players for Oklahoma State, you have their offensive coordinator, Mr. Doug Meacham. He has air raid routes, vertical spread. He's a guy that wants to pitch the ball around. And with their quarterback now being Flores, and then you got Kahib Hicks, who was good in the opener. They may be getting their starting running back back. Terrell Davis at wide receiver. You can expect a lot of quick game, play action shots if they are able to run the ball. But if they are not, it is going to be hell for them. And now on the defensive side for Oregon, you got their defensive coordinator, Mr. Tosh Lupoi. This is going to be an attacking defense, but they are going to do it without blitzing very much because they don't have to, because Oregon is young in the secondary. You saw Kingston Lopa, you've seen Brandon Finney, you've seen Naheem Alford. Last week, they were without their Northwestern All-Conference transfer cornerback as well, and they still dominated, and they still cruised throughout the first game against Montana State. So imagine once this group gets more gelled, once they get more time on task together, it could be absolutely crazy. So the question is, who am I leaning with at this? This is a definite Oregon lean in terms of Oklahoma State's offense that has a lot of questions. A backup quarterback now starting against Oregon's front, which was highly disruptive with Amari Washington, Mateo Uiagalelei, Terrence Green, Tatum Tuioti. Yeah, this is one of the better defensive lines in all of college football. Now, let's look at Oregon's offense versus Oklahoma State's defense. Everything for Oregon is going to start with their offensive coordinator, Will Stein, because the dude is a top-tier play caller, and this is probably his last year at the University of Oregon because he will likely get a head coaching job this offseason. It would be hard-pressed not to believe that he will get a shot somewhere. Now, his quarterback, Dante Moore, he distributed the ball to 10 different receivers in the first game. And their wide receiver room is young, but they are very talented. And they actually ended up led by Florida State transfer Malik Benson. You had Gary Bryant Jr., who came over from USC in his second year with the Ducks. But DeCorian Moore, and you had Kyle Casper. You had a whole host of other guys on the field. They were out there blocking. They were out there catching balls. It was fun to watch. But the running back room, it is not the expected starter, because you would have thought that the man who transferred over from Tulane would be the starter. However, it was Noah Whittington who led the day with 68 yards rushing, and true freshman Jordan Davidson, who came from Mater Dei, who had 3 touchdowns, who looks like he's going to be the goal line and short yardage back. Now let's look at Oklahoma State's defense, because their new defensive coordinator, Todd Grantham, he is an aggressive style of play caller. It's going to be a 3-4 defense with a whole lot of blitzes. Against this Oregon offense, Todd Grantham is going to have his hands full, because taking a team that gave up 36 points per game in conference play last year and making them into a good defense overnight in one season, that ain't possible. So expect the Ducks to score early and often. Now, Oklahoma State's best bet, though, is to find a way to plug up the run and force them to pass with their linebackers, Brian McCoy Jr., and then you got Brandon Rawls. But with Wendell Gregory, who got arrested and possibly facing a suspension, the pressure is going to be turned up on Oklahoma just that much more. But maybe this is 2025. Mike Gundy knows what's on the line, and he might be like, let's let this thing play out. let's let the justice system do its due before we execute any punishment, because this ain't the week to be without all your tools, even though, well, the right thing is always the right thing. Now let's get to the X factors and the keys to the game. The biggest key to the game is Autzen Stadium. Oregon has been dominant at home, 19-1 under Dan Lanning. The crowd noise, we know what it did to Ohio State last year. A first-year starting quarterback and a new-look offense on the road, oh, that is going to be tough. But the next X factor is going to be explosives and special teams, because the Ducks hit explosives and even blocked a punt in week 1 against Montana State. And Oklahoma State, they need to get chunk plays and make some plays on special teams if they are going to keep pace at all. Now, the last key to the game is going to be turnovers. When the point spread looks like this, when you're damn near a 30-point underdog, you need takeaways to be able to win. You need balls to bounce your way, hit off somebody's foot, fumbles get picked up, run back for a touchdown. But Oregon was clean in the opener, didn't turn the ball over. And in fact, aside from a Bryant Jr. punt return that fumbled out of bounds, that was really the only negative play or potentially negative play that Oregon had. And you're going to need Oklahoma State to try to heat them up, to blitz without gifting them explosives and letting players hit their head on the goalpost because they were trying to blitz and a missed tackle turned into a touchdown. I am going to go with the Ducks to win this football game very similarly to the way they did last week, except for I'm going to give Oklahoma State another field goal more than Montana State had. So we are going to go 3 field goals and a touchdown. So we're going to give them 16 points to Oregon's 52. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, and thanks for being on the channel and being one of us.